What is up? I am Omni-Man, and with me, as always, is Angstrom Levy. And we are here to do another one. It is Literature, otherwise known as It's Lit Book Reviews, the podcast where we discuss all things books, just your friendly neighborhood idiots here to talk about books yet again. And here we are at the very beginning of April. We thought we would do a Q1 recap, just talk about the books that we have read January through March, talk about some of our favorites, some of our least favorites, maybe talk about what Q2 has in store for us. But yeah, we're going to check it out. Like, comment, subscribe, do all this stuff. Let us know what you've read so far in 2025 and what your favorite reads have been. And we will get right into it. So I've read 19 books in January through March. How many have you read, brother?
I have read 13.
What's your goal? Just again like that, we already know that I am the superior being. This podcast doesn't really need to be any longer than this. What?
It doesn't, yeah. Yeah, what's your average page count on yours too?
Oh, where do you see that?
No, it's just figured you had those numbers in your head, man.
I do not. I
think I wonder if you can. No, we can't.
Wow, man!
It shows you that in your year of books. I saw that the other day, and I'm like, I mean, Goodreads is really attempting to branch.
They're trying so hard, but this is like the most. This is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. My 3 achievements are the fact that I've read in January, February, and March. I got an achievement for reading a single book in each month.
I looked at those the other day, though, and you have to specifically read certain books that they
really
choose for, to get other ones.
Like the other, yeah. So there's 12 that are just months, and then there's 3 random achievements. So they actually came up with 3. Anyway,
yeah.
So yeah, my goal for the year is 60. So right now I'm currently 4 books ahead of schedule, which is nice. Pretty early in the year,
books,
so
yeah. See, I put 42 as mine, which I think I did that intentionally to try and get 50. Because the last 2 years, I did 50 and I didn't get it. But then the 3rd year ago, I think, is when I actually hit it. But that, I mean, life was a lot easier back. So,
yeah, I've still yet to achieve my the first year I really got into reading. I started in February, the end of February 2020, and I ended up reading 68 books that year, and I haven't read that many since. So it just kind of goes to show you, kids, it's all downhill from here, regardless of where you are. So, yeah, I mean, just some overall stats. So I've read 19 books. 9 of them have been history or nonfiction, historical biographies. The rest have been sci-fi, fantasy, and then a couple classics that, I mean, I just shouldn't have even spent my time on. We'll get to it. But what's your spread looking like?
I'll put these up on the screen too, visually, in post. I'll put just so we don't have to mention each book we've read again, because we have other videos on that kind of stuff. If you want to look at some tier list stuff, but my spread, I've read 6 of my 13 are nonfiction, and then the others are all really science fiction more so. We've read some fantasy. We read 1 series so far this year, which is
The First Law.
The First Law. I mean, I'm just degrading as a human being, which that was pretty solid. But yeah, as far as series go, that's the only series we've read, and then we dabbled a little bit in some standalone kind of stuff, I feel like.
Yeah.
But
and we started a couple of series, kind of. Who knows?
You feel like that's normal spread of because you said 9 of your 19.
So that's why I started with this, is because I want to read. If I could plan it out ahead of time, which we know this is never how it goes. You just read whatever you want when the time comes. But ideally, 2/3 of the books I read this year will be nonfiction. And part of that's because I want to read more history. That's typically where I lean, but also just the books I own. If you don't know, we are doing a series where we discuss books we've owned that we haven't read yet. And I've got a lot. And I definitely have a good chunk of fantasy and sci-fi that I own and have not read. Like Peep, The Will of the Many, if you're watching on video, right here next to Banksy. So I have some, but dude, I have so much history and nonfiction that I've read, but also that I have not read. And I want to get to it, man. There's just so many things I want to to know
I
about
think
in the
it's
moment that I read them and then forget the day after.
yeah. I think it's easier to buy nonfiction though than it is to buy fiction in a way, because you can always get something out of nonfiction. Like let's say it's something on a topic and you learn something, but it wasn't super well written. Like you're at least still getting something from it. Whereas like when you read fiction and it's not a
Right.
book that you like, the odds of it like staying
Yeah.
on your shelf, like you're just probably getting rid of
Yeah.
it.
It's way
And it's kind
different.
of
Yeah.
risky to buy. I mean, I've already made the mistake many times, but like
Yeah.
after buying the full fifth season trilogy, whatever the actual name of that trilogy is, Broken Earth, never again,
Yeah.
dude. Like, because it's not the same.
Yeah.
Whereas you can buy so many things on different topics. It's like, well, I need something on the Ottoman Empire's fall now. So it's like,
Right. Now I need
gotta buy.
something on the famous Turkish guy, Ataturk,
Yeah.
or something like that. And to further your point, like not only is it easier to just buy like so many different things, but at least for me, I'm sure not everybody's the same, but like kind of like you said, like I bought the entire Nevernight trilogy, then read that first book and then got rid of all of them. Whereas there are books that I've read that are nonfiction that are not very good. Some of them are even like low key bad because of the way they're written, but because they still have information that's like
Real.
information, like
Yeah.
just facts in them, like it's much harder to separate. So like I've donated or it's basically donating when you take them to these consignment stores. I've gotten pennies on the dollar for fantasy and sci-fi books that I didn't care to keep, but I've not really done that with much history and nonfiction.
Yeah.
So all that to
True.
say, like 9 out of 19 is not quite where I want to be, but part of that is because I've read some absolute BS so far this year. Like I just read three or four, probably three little stupid books that I just shouldn't have wasted my time on. So it's
Which I
really
feel like
more
when
like I've read 9 out of,
yeah.
16. So it's
Yeah.
more balanced than it
For
seems.
me, this is like huge. I don't know what the breakdown was last year, but I don't know if I read I mean, I might have read 6 nonfiction last year, you know?
Yeah.
Like as far because I've physically read every I'd audibled a little bit of the first Law trilogy because I've already read that before. But like this year, one of my main goals is like to physically read everything. Um,
Yeah.
no shame to the Audible folks out there, but for me personally, like if I'm not reading it, especially nonfiction, it's like I'm already gonna only
It's
grasp so
tough.
much when I'm reading it. But when you're listening to it, especially if it's something on a foreign land and you're getting those names, I mean, good
Yeah.
luck.
It means
And
nothing.
those,
Yeah.
I mean, it's gone. I can't even visualize it. So that's been a
Yeah,
goal of mine,
we're
which
just
I'm
not at
happy to
that
like I've already.
historian level where you can just pop into some random piece of history and be like, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, I have a lot of context here." Like it's not like that for
yeah,
us.
nothing to
We
draw
simply
from.
haven't had the time on earth to become that yet. Because that's the thing with history. Like you do have to lock in if you really want to get out of it, you know,
Oh yeah,
anything impactful. Like you have to lock in. And
oh
sometimes, man,
yeah,
I realize with history too, and this is one of the reasons and we'll get into the actual video here now in a second, but one of the reasons I want to read more history so badly is because I feel like I'm still not even at a level where I don't even have a I feel like I still don't even, I know I do, but I still feel like I don't even have a foundational understanding of so much of history. And I'm definitely my worst critic in that regard, but it just
yeah,
feels like I'm still trying to get to a base level where I can think throughout the history of humanity and at least have a couple of,
yeah,
reference points where I could, give myself context whenever I'm learning or hearing about something else. So anyway,
dude.
that
That
being said,
reminds me though of like just one last point. Like whenever it reminds me of like when you're if you're someone who goes to the gym like often, it's like you're already like in a 1% of the population because most people don't work out. But the thing is, like once you get to the gym, like the hierarchy's like crazy. Like there's guys
right,
that like it's like, oh, I work out every day, but then it's like, but I don't look anything like these other people who it's like you
right,
look at them and you just know they spend hours on their bodies every day and supplements and all that. And that's kind of how I feel like reading is too. I mean, it's how a lot of things are, where like you
yeah,
get into a group, like not because not many people read. And so once you get into that group, then you realize like, oh wait, like there's like we're already in the 1% just because we've read however many books we've read this year. Like it's more books than most people will
right.
read for a lifetime. But like the people that we like watch and consume, they're just at such another
Oh,
level.
dude,
So it's crazy
we're
the
we're
disparity though.
dirt.
Like
Yeah,
it's crazy. The
like I
levels are
was
just
listening.
so wild.
Yeah, on the way back home, earlier today, I listened to a little bit of The Rest is History, and I was just like, why am I even doing a podcast where I pretend to know things about history when
Dude, the
these
way they
dudes are
riff is so
just,
good. They
I
can
mean,
riff
and
on
it's just
anything
crazy. They can
historically.
riff on anything in history. They're like, oh, yeah, and
Yeah,
this is kind of like, and then they'll jump to
dude.
some other thing, random thing in history that you've
Their
never even
kinda
heard
likes
of.
are tough, dude. Well, once you've listened to enough of their
Their kind of
podcasts, like,
likes are tough.
dude,
Yeah,
it's
they
awesome.
are. Yeah, it is.
Like, I've been listening to them enough now to where even though, like, I'll hear a name and it's like, "Oh, wait, that's that one time." Like, I would never be able to recall it, but, like, it's at least enough to where but then it's just impressive how they just yeah, it's just like that, and you're like, "Wow, that is just like that." Wow.
It really
Thank
is.
you, guys.
So, without further ado, we'll actually get into what this episode is
Video's about.
about. So, just right off the rip, Andrew, tell me what your favorite, since we've been talking about it, what's your favorite
Yeah.
nonfiction been this year?
I'm glad you said nonfiction. Man, it's tough, dude. It's tough, man. I'm such a recency biased guy. So Ring
Yeah,
of Steel is the one I just finished. Germany and Austria-Hungary in the World War, in World War One, so good. But man, Henry V, I feel like was so good, dude.
it's so
So
good.
it's so tough. So those are, I think my answer is like 1A is Henry V, and then solely because of like what I'm specifically interested. I think anyone would
Yeah,
like Henry V, but like
yeah,
specifically to me, um, like Ring of Steel is so up my alley.
right.
Of just like for some reason what I'm just so interested in, just because of that like void we get in the U.S. education when it comes to Germany and Austria-Hungary. So Ring of Steel is probably my 1B. What's yours?
So my answer is so similar to yours. It's so annoying.
Yeah,
But
we read
so
Henry V together, so
yeah, so I mean, mine really. I was sitting here thinking it's either A World Undone or it's Henry V as far as my favorite history so far. So it's very similar to yours. It's either the most recent book I've read, which is also covering World War One, like yours, and we've got a video out about
yeah,
World War One books that you should check out. We just released, or it's Henry V. I think for me, actually, A World Undone just barely edges out Henry V, and that might be recency bias, but it's also just because I just love this kind of book. A World Undone was straight up my alley. Not only the
yeah.
content, but just the way, like the layout of the way it was written. But yeah, Henry
We're
V was so good. But I totally agree. Henry V is something I would recommend to anyone if
so
they want
good.
to get into. Like if someone just said to me, "Hey, I don't read history. Like I'm down for anything." Henry V has become like one of the books that I would recommend, like at the top.
Yeah,
Like The Devil in the White City, a handful of others, and then I would say maybe Henry V.
yeah. It's a good story. Were there any for you that were just either disappointing or surprisingly good?
Um,
Like, were there any where you
disappointing.
had
What
expectations and they didn't meet the expectation, or regardless if it was good or bad?
So I would say in a bad way, In the Wake of the Plague by Norman F. Cantor, that was, I mean, it's called In the Wake of the Plague, The Black Death and the World It Made. And it just wasn't about that. It was about basically one dude. And it was just not good. Even when a book is not what I expected, I can still really enjoy it, but this one was not the case. So yeah, probably my least favorite book I've read this whole year so far. And
Yeah,
definitely my least favorite nonfiction is In the Wake of the Plague. I'm 0 for 2 on books about plagues. I read
yeah.
another one last year that was terrible. So, yeah, what about you? Have you had a nonfic that you did not enjoy?
No, I wasn't disappointed in American Lion, but
Mm,
I don't know, man. It was more just the content was disappointing, and that's
yeah,
on me because it literally
so much
says in the
Margaret
title
Eaton.
Andrew Jackson in the White House. So I mean, it was still a great book, but yeah, Margaret Eaton, it just
But I
being
get you're
very
making the point also that it just wasn't about his whole life, and
yeah,
so
and I
much more of
was
his life is interesting. Yeah,
yeah, his younger years, I didn't realize that because I just didn't know enough about Jackson that like I just assumed there was a lot of that more stuff. But I guess it makes sense. He's older; he can't just be out there on the
right.
front lines. But I wanted to know more in detail about New Orleans, him in Florida, like those kind of things, like we've talked about in that video too. But so it wasn't bad. Like it was still, I think I gave it 4
Yeah,
stars. Like I really liked it, and it's giving me a lot of context to build off of. But I wanted the younger years, is what I've realized, which means I'll just have to read
yeah,
more. But
yeah. And I could add another one too because I agree with American Lion. We both gave that book 4 stars. We still really enjoyed it, and John Meacham is an elite historian. But yeah, it just wasn't wasn't quite what I expected from Meacham to a degree, but also just it just like, the Margaret Eaton stuff was so much. Again, shout
Yeah.
out Margaret, love her to
Yeah.
death, but she was just so much of that book. I would also say for me,
Dominion.
no, Dominion I liked. It was definitely had its, you know, marks for me, but The Swerve by Stephen Greenblatt. This is a Pulitzer Prize winning book, How the World Became Modern. This is a really
Those will
high
get you
rated book, and it's really popular,
Pulitzer
but
prizes. Will
those Pulitzer
I
Prizes, man, it's like they're just
get
giving them out like candy, I guess.
you. Yeah.
And this just book was just not, again, it was a similar thing where, I mean, the title of the book is The Swerve, How the World Became Modern. And then most of the book is about one guy. And it was
Yeah.
interesting, like his story, but it's like, yo, are you telling me this one guy made the world modern? Like, what is your thesis here? I don't understand. And he kind of makes it in one short chapter, but it's like, okay, well, you could have just said that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that one was kind of disappointing as well. But you know, I've had Incomparable Grace, the JFK kind of really, it's a short, really general book that I thought was good on his life. So yeah, I mean, it's actually crazy. I've had more books that I didn't like as much than I actually really loved. Because I'm looking at
I was
these now. I
looking at
mean,
I was looking at my ratings, and mine are pretty. I mean, I got to get better at not just giving 5 stars when I like something. I can't tell because it's like, do I
yeah,
really think it's 5? Like sometimes it's like, all right, they're good, but I gave a lot of 5 stars this year. I did give some 3 stars though,
yeah,
so
I've had a few 3 stars,
which
for
I
sure.
normally don't give.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think nonfiction. There's been some wins for sure, but I'm going to be a little more particular about what I decide to read the rest of the year to kind of,
Yeah,
because it's
same.
just weird, man. It's every time you finish a book, I have so many books that I haven't read that I just look around, and if one randomly catches my attention and I read the first chapter or two, I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm reading this book. And
Yeah,
then I finish it, and it might even be a book I like, but I'm like, dude, was that really like the book that I wanted to read? I mean, I only
yeah.
have so much time in this life, you know?
I'm trying to read like eras now, I think.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
because then it helps. Like what we're doing right now, it just builds off. I mean, I think we've
yeah,
gotten lucky too with the not lucky, but we're reading two, I think, really good books as well. So
right.
it doesn't matter when we pick them up, they'd be well, but I'm the same. Like I kind of want to lock in on some eras. And nonfiction, man, this is the year of nonfiction for me. I'm like, I think I'm
Yeah.
slowly like there because I've had some itches to read some fiction recently. But still for the most part, like I'm pretty locked in, dude, to
Yeah.
entrenching myself into the nonfiction.
Well, and another thing is there's so much nonfiction out there that I know is good that I'll enjoy. And there's definitely a lot of sci-fi and fantasy that I know I would enjoy. But I feel that I've also kind of daggered myself in that I've already read, you know, I feel like the Wheel of Time is like really the big thing that I haven't read, but I've hit Stormlight, I've read Red Rising series, you know, all these other little one-offs, and like I just feel like I'm kind of, because again, for me, sci-fi and fantasy, like I'm not about to branch out on some new series that no one's read in
Yeah.
sci-fi and fantasy.
Tougher
Whereas
to
with
take a chance.
history, I do that all the time. I mean, you gotta love Rush in the background, just
Shout out
barking at our
Rush.
neighbors through the window. So, that being said, let's get into sci-fi and fantasy. I mean, what was your
Fiction.
favorite fiction
Or
book this
wait,
year?
I say before we do that, is there two or three? Is there anything like just keep it nonfiction, fiction? Is there anything you are for sure reading this year, nonfiction?
Nonfiction wise?
Like, is there anything? I know that's like off the cuff. I
Yeah, I
can give you
mean,
some of mine.
for sure I'm gonna read the first in Susan Wise Bauer's History of the World series. The first one is History of the Ancient World. Probably gonna
Okay.
read that pretty soon by her whenever, because I'm kind of like you, gonna try to stick with eras, you know, a few books at a time. So whenever I decide to go kind of back into ancient history, that'll be the first book I read. So there'll be a few there that I hit ancient history wise. Biography wise, man, I've got to get a Teddy Roosevelt book under my belt. Like I've read a couple things about him, but I've never read a thick boy biography on TR. So I would say those, and then I'm hitting one of these Peter Wilson books, dude. I'm either hitting the Heart of Europe, the 30 Years War, or Iron and Blood by Peter
Hmm.
H. Wilson at some point. What about you, nonfiction?
It's tough, dude. I think I'm gonna stay. I think eventually I'll go back to more medieval history. Maybe
Mm,
do another Dan Jones just because his books are so easy to read. But like as far as like what's so like on top of my mind, the Frank McDonough, however you say his last name. I have that whole series on Germany. The Weimar years, I'm definitely reading. Dude, those books are beautiful. Like I can't wait to get into that
mm.
one. I think it'll read pretty quick. That one for sure. And then um I can't read it from here, but there's a two-part Hitler biography that I have, and I want to read the first part of that as well, for sure. Like this year.
My boy just wants to
So,
load up on the Nazi history.
dude, I think I have enough context now. Like I have a decent amount of context now to where it's like I feel good going into this. Like I feel like I actually am gonna retain way more than I
Yeah,
ever have.
just understand the context better.
Yes, and that's exciting. Like that's exciting. Like feeling like I have enough context, but I do still want to read either Iron and Blood or Iron Kingdom. And I know you have Iron and Blood, so I might try and rip that one too. But it's like figuring out a way to match up with you on those. But that and then the Fall of the Ottomans. That
Mm,
I
I
mean,
do want to read that too.
that's probably getting read soonish for me. But
Yeah,
anyway,
and
that's
of
I was
course
just want to make
I'm gonna get my annual Ulysses S. Grant biography in for sure. I'm probably gonna read
about Ron Chernow.
Gene either Chernow's or Gene Edward Smith's. I still haven't read either one of those.
You need to
Probably
kill
Chernow's because you
someone else
have
with
it.
Chernows.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Chernow's is a weapon of mass destruction. It's a huge
it's
book.
really
So yeah, I mean that's non-fic for Q1 and what we're kind of thinking potentially coming up in Q2 here. So overall, some good reads, if you will, in nonfiction, but definitely wanting to turn it up and get into more
turn up.
purposeful purposeful content,
Yeah.
specifically because that's the problem with owning a lot of books is you can get kind of lost and just jumping back and forth, which is
Oh
totally fine. I
man.
love doing that, but it's also like you said, it's just really nice to hop into an era and read multiple biographies or just contextual books about a specific thing like we're doing
Yeah.
for World War I or have been doing for World War I. So that's non-fic. Let's jump into the fiction for Q1. What's your favorite fiction this year so far?
See, this is where it's tough, dude, because it's for sure Lightbringer, but Lightbringer was
Yeah.
literally like within the first couple days because I might have
Yeah.
started Lightbringer before. Did we start Lightbringer in
It's the second
2025?
book I read. No, I started it at the beginning of this year. I read March of Folly and then went straight into Lightbringer. So I started it the first
Okay, yeah,
week
we
of the
did.
year.
I just couldn't remember. So I guess it does count for this year for sure, but it's like, dude,
Yeah.
that could have been 3 years ago, but it's still obviously the hit and the impact is still insane. So that's definitely my favorite, but
But the first Law
it's
trilogy was so good.
First Law trilogy is so good, dude. Rereading the First Law trilogy, man, has given me so much more. Like I already loved Joe Abercrombie, but after reading a lot of other stuff, like we finished Red Rising, we finished Stormlight, read a lot of Mistborn, um, read James Islington. Like we've read a lot of good series, read Brian McClellan. So like I read all those after First Law. So I kind of was doubting, like I'm not gonna lie, before we started, I was like, is it this good? But then once I read it
Hmm.
again, dude, it's as far as just enjoyment, like I don't know if it's the best series ever. I don't even it's in my top 10, I think. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look. We did top 5, so I'm pretty sure I put it in my top 10. But dude, just readability, it was I could see myself reading it again in a year or two because it's just
Yeah.
so funny and witty. But then it's because you're there for the characters, so it doesn't matter that the plot's not Brandon Sanderson level,
Right.
switcheroos,
Yeah.
which there's still
It's
good
character
plot.
driven for sure.
But man, because it's the characters, you can just keep coming back to them because you want them. Like
Yeah.
you're there for them anyway. But what was your thoughts?
So I'm not going to reiterate everything you said, but it's pretty much the same. Lightbringer. I mean, Red Rising. That series is my favorite series. I think about those characters every day of my life.
Would you
Like I'm
say
not going to lie to
Lightbringer
you.
is what did it for you though? Like as far as putting that up to
No,
top?
well, that's a good question. Actually, you're probably actually
Yeah,
Lightbringer probably really put it
and
over the
Dark
top. It
Age was
was
good
already
though too.
there. It was already there right with Stormlight. But
Yeah,
we read Wind and Truth at the end of 2024 and
yeah.
then read Lightbringer. So I did have,
You had
as far
context.
as the latest things that are out for both series, like I had both of them back to back essentially. And Wind and Truth also wasn't the best book in that series. And
Yeah,
Lightbringer, dude, when I reread this series, I don't know if Lightbringer is the best book, but the culmination of that story in
yeah,
Lightbringer just solidified this is my favorite series. These are my favorite characters. This is my favorite world to be in. Like it's actually really sad to think that we got caught up to this series, and then either this year or next, Red God's going to come out and it's going to be over. Although I'm super hyped for a reread, probably won't get around to it until after the series is complete. But Lightbringer for sure, love it. That's
Yeah, so
probably
good.
still overall my favorite book this year, just in general, which is
Yeah,
it
I would
hurts
say
me to
so.
say because I'm a nonfiction guy, but Lightbringer was just so freaking good.
Bro, so
And then I
good.
love the first law, especially the second, and then it's even more so the third book. Great series. I won't. You said it perfectly. The only thing I would add for me that sticks out, it's not better than either of those things I said, but The Sirens of Titan by Vonnegut sticks out to me. Like when I see that book, I'm like, oh yeah, like I remember reading that. I remember how I enjoyed it. Again, part of it for me was the novelty of it because not only have I never read Vonnegut before, but I've never read anything like Vonnegut. So it was also just it being new and refreshing for me. But
Yeah,
still, it's still not as good as Lightbringer. It's totally different than those books for one thing, but I wouldn't put it above those either way. So
I feel like
yeah,
I could guess
love those.
our and probably your biggest disappointment fiction wise. We didn't read that much fiction, so
Well, you got to remember some of the fiction I read.
yeah. But did you go in with high hopes? I mean, with the
No.
same level. I mean, I'm thinking Hyperion, dude. I was disappointed. I mean, it's
Yeah, I mean, Hyperion, I would definitely agree that it wasn't what I expected. I wouldn't say I was disappointed. We have a video on it. I'd said in there, obviously, I enjoyed it slightly a little bit more than you, I think, overall. But yeah, I would agree with you. It was definitely not like, for sure, wasn't what I was looking for when I picked up Hyperion. Wasn't what I expected. And it definitely the first half had me wondering if I was going to make it through that book alive. But so yeah, I mean, I would agree with you, but I also read Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka, which that was my mistake. But I mean, that book was just literally about a dude turning into a beetle, which it was hilarious when the first 30 pages were about him waking up on his back and his little roach beetle legs being in the air and him not being able to get up and right himself. So I mean, that was funny, but I enjoyed Hyperion more than it. So I can't say Hyperion was the biggest disappointment, but you're right. I didn't go into Metamorphosis with any crazy
yeah,
expectations. So yeah, I would agree with you. And then what I would say, like kind of the reverse of that, I wasn't expecting this book to be bad, but Horus Rising by Dan Abnett, the first book in the Horus Heresy
oh yeah,
series, was a nice surprise for me because, again, we've got a video on this as well. You can check it out. But to keep it short, I was kind of expecting a Star Wars level, like just not that great of a book. Just one of those
yeah,
things where you're only going to like it if you already like the world of Warhammer. But I was pleasantly surprised. Really enjoyed that book. I'll continue the series at some point in my life. So Horus Rising was pretty good. So that was a nice addition to the year. But yeah, I mean,
yeah.
we can just go ahead and make this another Red Rising video if you want. I could talk about Lightbringer being the best book of the year for a
That
while.
was
I mean, it
good.
was so good.
Yeah, another book that was disappointing for me was Buffalo Hunter. That was like one of
Oh
my books
yeah,
that I had penciled
yeah,
in for this year, so I at least checked a box there. I mean, it was still okay, but the ending was so bad. So we have a video on that
yeah,
too. But the setting
yeah,
and everything was still cool. Hyperion Man for me still was just a very big letdown. I mean, I think I think book two. I mean, from what we've had some people comment and then seeing that apparently book two is a lot better, and I could see like the foundation of what's going on. It's just I just expected from the get go to really like this book, and having to like justify like the book is decent by just saying, but the second half is good. It's like, well, that's why can't the first half be good? Is like where I'm at
yeah.
because it just seems like it's one of those monumental things. But I think it's more becoming what I'm realizing is that maybe Dan Simmons is just because he is a really good writer. Like I mean, it's the
Yeah,
pros are
clearly.
honestly at a level where a lot of the times I'm like, I don't really. I feel like this is like a joke to someone who's at a way different academic level than me. So that it's just going over
Yeah,
my head. So it's more probably it's not that I think the writing is bad. I don't like the plot decisions at all for me. At least the beginning. Like you said though, there are some still really good parts of this book, but it's like it reminds me, and this is a bold comparison, but it
oh god,
reminds me of how I think I already gave it away. Um the Brent Weeks book that we read.
The Way of Shadows.
The Way of Shadows, dude, there were some really cool moments in The Way of Shadows I really liked, but then in a completely different way, Brent just daggers that book by some of the
Yeah,
liberties he takes. I
in
mean,
a very
I'm not
different way,
saying
but yeah,
I'm not saying Dan Simmons is doing that in that way, but it's like that's what I mean. It's like there's some like, dude, because 2 of those stories of the 6 were really, I mean, almost 3, but 2 were like really good to me and
yeah,
really
super
unique.
solid. Yeah,
But anyway, I do think, I know you're really wanting to read the second one, and I'm sure I will too, just because that's the annoying part about that book is the way it ends. It's like I care
yeah.
just
It's
enough.
like
Like he
even for
did a
you,
good,
who you
yeah.
didn't enjoy it, but you still kind of want to get the
So,
rest of the story. Yeah,
but I will say, just because I have to put it out there, the Sirens of Titan did not do what it did for you for me, and that's a shame because I would love to be on your level with that. But dude, that was brutal for me. I am glad I
yeah,
read it, though, but it was not. I don't feel how Jake feels about it, but I think it's more the era for me. Like it's tougher for me to put my mind like in what the 60s or whenever he wrote that and like
yeah,
appreciate it for that. But
yeah.
that's just I'm not mad that I read it. You know, I'm not like
Right. Yeah,
disappointed in that way. It's just I just didn't like it. It's really more what it is.
yeah,
But I'm excited, dude. There's some books to like transition to like what I'm excited to read, dude. I just saw this the other day, and it's not gonna be till later on, but I mean, bro, Empire of the Vampire, the series is getting finished this year. It looks
oh
like so
gosh,
November 4th, Empire of the Dawn is coming out. Somehow it's got 4.67 rating on Goodreads
dang,
already. Let's
already.
go.
I
So
can't wait
talk
to hear
about,
about that from you.
dude, I'm excited, man. That series is one of the most surprisingly amazing series I've ever read. It's so good, dude, and it's only so surprising solely because of how bad Nevernight was.
Yeah,
Um,
which I gave
but
you. Did I give? No, I still have Empire of the
you
Vampire
still
here.
got Empire, bro. So I got Empire of the Damned all on its lonesome self here. But the other book that I'm really excited for that's coming out soon, and hopefully we get to go do that thing with Joe Abercrombie is like go see him is The Devils. That comes
Yeah,
out. It says May 6th here, but I think that thing is like May 13th. But those are 2 that I'm looking forward to reading. I know you probably have
yeah.
some ones that I'll read too. What if you have? What are the 2 you're most looking forward to?
Fiction and sci-fi wise, definitely going to be The Will of the Many and The Empire of Silence.
About
Those are
2.
the books I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to the most. Is getting into those series.
dude,
Definitely
we're
do want to read the second Hyperion, The Fall of Hyperion, but not
yeah.
as badly as I crack into those other books.
I agree. And dude, I'm excited. I've already read, for anyone who is some reason still listening, I've read I think the first 6 of the Wheel of Time, and we're gonna get into that. And dude, I'm so excited to see what you think about this series because,
Yeah, me too.
dude, and there's gonna be parts of this series that you're gonna appreciate so much, man. His world building is so good. Um, so I'm the Eye of the World's coming up soon. I've already read it, but I think this time around, especially for me, it's gonna I'm excited. I'm excited to see what
It's
it
going to
does
hit
for me.
different.
I think it might.
Me too. I
I
am.
truly
It's just
think
one of
that it's
those things where
bro, it's an
the
investment. That's the only
problem
thing that's
it's just
the
such an
downfall.
investment. That's the only problem for me is because I want to read so much history and nonfiction, which means there's a limited amount of fiction and fantasy and sci-fi
Yeah.
that I'm going to get in. And I already know I've got The Will of the Many, second book in that series. And dude, James Islington is like, I mean, I've only read one series by him, but dude, I'm going to read everything that man does like forever.
Yeah.
And
It
I'd
was
like to
great.
read it when it comes out. So I got to read The Will of the Many so that I'm ready for that second book. I want to get into the Sun Eater series before it's freaking over. And Eye of the World's like 14 books, Wheel of Time. So it is
Yeah.
just it's daunting, but we're not gonna
It's one
it
of those
shouldn't
ones that I
matter.
feel like
I'm
once we
just getting in
start
my head
chipping
about
away
it.
at it though, it can just be like a
Yeah, because it's not like we're gonna
'cause it's
read it
gonna
all
take a
back to
minute to
back.
finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I'm definitely excited to get into it. But it's also just one of those things where, and this isn't even like a booktube thing. It's just like more of just being able to be a part of the moment.
Yeah.
Is I want to read more books when they come out so like I can be a part of the Reddit threads and the conversations
Yeah.
online talking about books. And like, I mean, The Will of Time is, it's been done for a while. So again, I
Yeah.
have to read it. I want to read it. I do. But there are some things that I still slightly want to read more than it. But either way, we're getting into it. And I know I'm going to love it, which is part of the reason it scares me too, because I'm worried I'm going to read the first one and be like, all right, I'm not reading anything else until I know what happens in book 14,
Dude,
because I
I
just know
don't
I'm going to like it.
People talk about how the ending of it is like one of the best endings of all time, and that's like it just kind of pisses me off because
Yeah, that
like I've read
14th
the
book
first
gets
6,
referenced as
I'm still so far away. Like,
yeah, you're not even
it's
halfway
like
through, which
so
is wild.
anyway.
But so yeah, that's Q1. A lot of things, exciting books to read the rest of the year. But let us know if you've read any of the books we've read or what you enjoyed so far in the old first fiscal quarter of the year. And we will see you on the next one.
Bye guys.